Here we are. Welcome back. We are jam packed. I'm here with the boys. I've got Michael and Alex.
Hello.
And so it's my turn to do a Tastebreakers, second Tastebreakers episode. Just get straight into it. So I think first album that I got, I think as well, before I start getting into it, I know that Mickey had a lot of sort of stories that came with finding the albums. A lot of mine are just browsing through Instagram, finding different things and just sort of going, oh, I'll give it a listen. So it's not as there's not a lot of context behind it. So, I mean, we'll just get straight into talking about them. So the first album that I got was called Hi, How Are You by Daniel Johnston. I don't know how to put this album into a genre or anything. It's just...
It's like 60s music crossed with weird post-punk kind of thing.
Yeah. It's a lack of instrumentation and just weird vocals and weird effects on them and just...
It sounded like... I mean, it sounded like what it is. It's an unfinished album.
Yeah.
And then there's been a lot of stuff, I think, that's probably been added on top of it to make it sound more like unique, to make up for the fact that it's an unfinished album. Because as far as I'm aware from what you were saying, the person who made the album, Daniel Johnston, didn't get a chance to finish it.
Yeah, he didn't get a chance to finish it. He ended up... He stopped working on the album due to a mental breakdown that he was having, and so. But this was like the first album that he released in his discography, and I think that's the whole sort of idea. It's like home recorded, sort of. It's got that sort of feel to it, and just the eerie vocals, and as well, I think you can sort of sense the mind frame that he was in.
Oh, definitely
through the album, just to sort of like.
I must say, of all of your albums, this one did unsettle me to listen to it the most. It was a strange listen.
When it first came on, I thought my speakers were broken or something.
Yeah.
Because it's such a strange sound.
Yeah.
It's definitely not been done before. There's not many similar albums.
It did sound like my earphones had gotten like water in or something like that.
Yeah, I think out of all my albums, I think this one was definitely one that you could call weird. I think the rest of them you can't really put that label on it.
Yeah.
But then I don't think personally I listen to that sort of abstract music or dig deep to find underground stuff. But we'll move on to the next album, which is Andrew Jackson Jihad. People who can eat people are the luckiest people in the world. I mean, it sounds weird.
It's got a cool name, yeah.
It wasn't actually as weird as I expected from the name and the really badly drawn album cover.
Yeah.
It did sound like kind of normal indie folk, and the thing that made it unique and took it past that was just his voice and what he was saying.
The actual content of
the content of the lyrics.
Forward.
Yeah,
I think that's what I love about this album most, is just how dense it is, in the sense that it's only 25 minutes long, but like if you listen through this album, like the amount of stuff that he's putting on you, like, and how dark it all is, I think that's what really gets to you when you listen through it.
Yeah, it's like a tragic comedy, except it's just kind of, it doesn't have a plot or anything. It's it's something that you listen to and you go, that's pretty funny, and then you're like, oh no,
it's not.
Oh, I shouldn't have laughed.
I think that was it. It's the whole contrast between the folky sort of joyful guitar that keeps going on, and then what he's actually saying. Because some of the stuff where he's talking about how he's thankful that his dad beat him and stuff like that, and it's like
yeah.
Well, it's songs on the album that you could hear on the radio and think, that's quite a happy tune, and then when he starts singing, you're like, oh.
I'll take that back.
Yeah, it does sound like it. It reminded me of like not in terms of like. In terms of quality, because it surpasses a quality, but there's a like Pink Guy had a song called Help, where it's really jolly, and it's a song about screaming out for help because you're depressed and you're having a mental breakdown, and it was like the whole album like had that
just
the vibe,
that sort of vibe.
You listen to it and you're like, all right, I can get into that groove, and then it just
shoots you down.
It's shattered. Yeah.
We'll move on to everyone's favourite.
Yeah.
Fantano 10 out of 10. To Be Kind by Swans.
Michael Briley 1 out of 10.
Michael Briley 0 out of 10.
I was going to say, it's
not
less
good.
than a 1 for me.
But I think I really like this album just for the sort of direction that they go in, and sort of I like the whole build up and I don't know. I think the lyrics that come with it. And I do like some of the sounds that come out of this album. I know that Michael's looking at me now like I'm just dumb.
To me, this album seemed like a 5 to 6 out of 10 band trying to go for going for a noise that not many people have gone for in terms of like making cock teasing people for 60 minutes to give them a drum. And to some people that's unique, its characteristics, interesting, but I just don't have the time to listen to listen to the same like to just listen to a guitar kind of strum out for 15 minutes only to like hear like a bit of energy. I don't fucking get that as like a listening experience.
I listened to it twice, and the second listen through, I just thought, why am I doing this to myself? Because the first time it was kind of enjoyable. Yeah, I'm not going to say I liked it, and I don't think I'd listen again. Well, I definitely wouldn't. But it's just the way it was. There was some bits that I enjoyed, and there's some tracks in it that I liked. But on the second listen through, I just got bored by minute 5 of song 1, which is 17 minutes
to it long enough to sort of like get into the lyrics and get into what they're saying and get into sort of the switches, because I think some of the songs when you listen to them, they just sort of like bypass for how long they are as well. They just sort of like forgettable and you don't really get what's going on.
I listened to it once and I was happy when I was distracted by something else and I had to like come away from it for a while. It melted. It melted my head.
We'll move on to something a bit more. I mean, it's not. I don't even know what, but it's Kid A by Radiohead.
No,
nothing more. Not much more enjoyable. I just think I put this in just for the sort of the left turn that Radiohead took, because I think it came after OK Computer and sort of like listenable and digestible Radiohead albums, and then it was this, and it was sort of a left turn. They just sort of did whatever they could that sounded weird and different, and I quite like that aspect of the album. You can tell that there's like the layering and stuff was just something else.
I've never really been a massive Radiohead fan. I usually just see them as kind of like a toe dip into like experimental like kind of rock, and it's just what this album felt like. I just felt like it didn't go far enough, which I can understand if it's the first kind of big like veer away from like the norm of what they were used to. But for me, because I'm just coming into this album like, okay, I have to listen to Kid A by Radiohead, it just felt like it was like they got the toe wet and then that was it.
Right, okay. I mean,
well, I've always been a Radiohead fan. Yeah. Not like a die-hard stan or anything, but I've always thought, the music's quite enjoyable. But I think Kid A is one of their worst albums.
Wow. Because
compared to OK Computer,
I think that there's like OK Computer is just such a big album, and I think that's just what they wanted to do. Just wanted to make something that wasn't that.
And that's what I'm thinking though. It's the disappointment of thinking, wow, that was such a good album, and then now they've released Kid A, which I didn't enjoy as much, and thought
that's quite a different way to look at it.
I think I've never listened to another Radiohead album
apart from OK Computer.
Apart from OK Computer, actually, which actually now is I've forgotten.
Oh wow, that's how much Mickey likes Radiohead. Yeah. We'll move on to Merryweather Post Pavilion by Animal Collective, and I love this album just for the sort of effects that they have on it, while at the same time being able to maintain a listenable aesthetic to the album, make it sound like just a poppy sort of thing, like a mainstream album with like a twist on it, and I quite enjoyed that.
I think this is why I didn't enjoy the Radiohead album, but I did enjoy this. It's because the Radiohead album's quite mellow with like accessible like different sounds, whereas this one's upbeat and it doesn't do the same sounds, but it attempts to try the same kind of idea, having sounds that you don't necessarily hear in that kind of space. And I think I enjoyed actually having something that I could either bob my head to or like find a proper groove in that I found funky.
Just something that's memorable.
Well, this one, it kind of lacked for me. I would listen again, but I wouldn't go to it. It wouldn't be my go-to album or anything. It was kind of either not experimental enough or too experimental. In the way that the genres
The
didn't
genre
blend.
is in.
If it was
I get that.
more out there, more weird, had loads of, more flume kind of style,
Yeah.
then I think I'd have enjoyed it more. But if it was more like, I don't really know any mainstream DJs, like more Calvin Harris kind of style, completely away from the experimental out there, it may have had a different impact.
I do get
it was
that.
kind of in the middle.
I do get that, because there were some points where it was like normal, and then you just get like you get drop kicked in the mouth by like just this random left field thing. And I know that I enjoyed that because it kind of brought me back, but I could see why that would like be jarring, especially if you're like trying to like really focus on it, and then next thing you know, you're like, what is this?
We'll move on to another long one, another challenging one, which is Bitches Brew, the album by Miles Davis, the landmark in jazz music. And I just remember listening to it just because of that, and I know that it was such a big album when it came out, and I just thought I'd go through it, saw the runtime, and just thought it's gonna be, well, I've listened to Swans, so I'll be okay. But then I think coming out of it, just the amount of stuff that's going on and the different like little things, and I just remember listening through it and just coming out of it just being like, I feel tired, like I feel like I need to go to bed, because just the amount of stuff that's going on and the amount of concentration that you have to just sort of keep on top of it all. And I just thought, I'll put that on you guys and see what you say.
I'm going to surprise you here.
Okay.
Even though the first track's 17 minutes, is it?
It's at least 20, both of them.
No, the 20, they're actually 20 minutes. I really dug it.
I do enjoy them. I just think it is just a really tough listen.
I'm a big fan of like jazz, and a lot of jazz.
You like jazz?
Like I like jazz. A lot of jazz can be like improv at times. Sometimes all the time.
I was going to say that's how the songs can get to such long, playtimes and albums as well, because they can just improv for hours and hours, and you can get 2 or 3 hour jazz songs on a live show. Yeah,
it's just stuff getting cut and things like that. And if you feel, I think as well, it's like the art to it. Like if you feel like that should be cut, or if you're proud of that, then yeah.
I think so. I knew what I was getting into, so it was nice to hear. Like obviously Miles, I like Miles Davis, but I've never had a proper full like dive into one of his albums. So like to hear something from someone that I already know and respect as a musician, and then to hear something left field in the genre that he's kind of made one of the biggest names in. Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to it.
Well, if you make music or play instruments or anything like that, you can kind of appreciate it more. Yeah, because you can realize how like talented he is. Yeah, what a game changer the album was.
I think that's it. This is like the first full jazz album that I've got into, so I think as well that just sort of threw me off, because it was just not what I was expecting anyway, and I think that's part of why it's so good. We'll move on to Mount Eerie by the Microphones, which is their follow-up to The Glow, which is one of my favourite albums. And I think it's sort of carrying on that, because he sort of goes from this breakup and then he ends up being dead, and I think that's the whole point of it, being dead and just like having nothing. And you can sort of sense that in the album, and how ominous it is, and how drawn out it is, and how just, I don't know.
Well, it's called Mount Eerie, so it's obviously going to be ominous. But I enjoyed it. It was better than some of the other picks for your taste breakers. The Swans album. It's probably like wasn't a good one. Maybe 5th for me. Yeah, but it was quite a hard listen still.
I enjoyed this quite a lot, to be fair.
Wow, I thought you'd be thrown off by the 17-minute first track.
When I clicked that this, because I listened to Mount Eerie as a crow looked at me, and I didn't realise that. Yeah, I knew that he swapped his name, like the band swapped the name, but I didn't realise that it was the Microphones, and I was like, oh shit. And then this is the name of what they changed the band name to, and it felt like that perfect, because I enjoyed The Glow Part 2, and I really enjoyed A Crow Looked to Me, and this seemed to be like not in the middle, but you could see the kind of
progress.
You could see the progress, and I think it on some points it executed on some of the things that, like, I know that I'm referencing a lot of albums that we talked about in this like kind of list of 10, but that's what I've just been like
But you're comparing the two, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
It executed on things that To Be Kind tried to do for me.
Yeah.
That I did actually enjoy, like the kind of weight and then the change and stuff like that.
I think as well the fact that it had context to it, and sort of like the fact that it was like a lot more sort of certain. You knew what was going on because like the lyrics and stuff and the poetry to it. I think you sort of get like what he's going for with the album while you listen, and I do quite like that about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to Slint Spiderland, which I thought it's just a very 0 to 100 sort of album in the fact that it's like he's talking and it's sort of quite calm, or it's sort of full on like intense instrumentation, just sort of going for it. And I do like this album. This is a very good listen for me.
It's rough.
Yeah.
And I like rough.
It's gritty.
Like a rugged and uncut album.
Yeah.
Really, it's got grit, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked the choice of like the vocals being tame, spoken word kind of, and then also being screamed, because not only is the instrumentation, the kind of production on it rough.
Yeah.
Like if what you're working with is rough anyway, you know that the mic and the kind of the mixing of the vocals is also going to be quite a rough mix.
Yeah.
And it just kind of made those transitions even like meatier. I did enjoy the kind of heftiness of the whole sound.
I think as well, when you listen, you sort of think that like there's some sort of fantasy thing going on and you just have no clue what it is. And I think while going through, I think that sort of adds to it. Like it's just the fact that you don't know what's going on and the sort of chaos that it brings. And I think that adds a lot to the album as well. Yeah. Okay. We'll move on to In the Court of the Crimson King, King Crimson, another landmark sort of album in sort of introducing prog rock to the world. And I think I just love how it alters from each song. You got like the ending to Moonchild where it's really like calm, and you got I Talk to the Wind, where you got all the flutes going in, and Epitaph where it's just sort of this grandiose sort of thing. And I think the mixture of everything, it just sort of goes so well together. And I do really like this album.
You can see how this album kind of caused a massive shift or a change or a spike in the music landscape. I can definitely I've never listened to it, even though I know about it and stuff. I've never really like sought out to listen to it.
Yeah.
And now that I have, I feel like a dick. I feel like I've really missed out.
Well, for me, I'm a man of few words, and it was a very chilled out album.
Yeah,
and I like that. It's such a good vibe, and I was just driving, listening to it, and I was just thinking, this is a good album.
You could just see the reach of the album, like in it, because you're hearing things and you're there like that sounds like something, or it sounds like something, and all those things came after it, and you're there like, oh wow, this album's like in the world of like rock as it got to its like more recent stages now, or even earlier than that, like in 80s or whatever. You can see what this album changed. It's really impressive, and if you like Kanye West, you'll like the first track.
Oh yeah! Oh my god! Yeah.
But
I didn't even clock that as well.
We've only got one more to go for, haven't we?
I think that's it.
What about Yoshimi?
Oh, I missed Yoshimi. Oh yeah. Well, thank God. So we'll move on to the Flaming Lips. Yoshimi battles the Pink Robots, and again, it's another sort of pushing the boundaries album, and I do love it just for the sort of inspiration it took, the context that's brought with it, and sort of that you can get the sort of Japanese manga comic sort of style from it as well in the story, and like the distort, like the electric sounds that come from it, as well as like the nice soft vocals as well. I think they just all work so well. The
electricity coming off this album is it's just fun. Yeah. It's such a, like, you find yourself like you're listening to something like, oh, it's a bit like off kilter to what you might be used to, but at the same time, like, you can't fault the effort, the kind of like the noises that are coming off it. They just make your body want to like kind of move with it.
Yeah,
in a weird way.
Yeah, Well, you can tell it was influenced heavily by, like, you know, Japanese anime, manga kind of thing, and them styles really come out, and you can tell, and I do like that. It's not like weeb trash songs like
No.
other stuff, but it's got a nice influence from it, and then it also draws from some other genres, like, you know, electronic music, and there's even like hints of rock in there as well.
Yeah, with it, like taking inspiration from like visual media to make an audio like kind of media can usually be difficult. Like you've got like not Scarface from Get Out Boys, a group like Scarface spelled CZAR. They take a lot of influence from like comics and stuff. But like at the same time, like the influence is like kind of like weird beats with them talking, like making a lot of comic book kind of references,
Just sort of
which
like
it's obvious. Whereas this one, like you listen to it and you're like, that reminds me of something.
It can be its own sort of comic in that sort of genre. It can, you can sort of.
This one, it reminds you of that, like the East Asian kind of like the cartoonish kind of styles that they go with.
Yeah.
And yet it doesn't feel like it's just being that for the sake of just being it.
Well, yeah, we'll conclude that episode. I thought that was a good handful of albums that we've all listened to.
Yeah.
I mean, what would your favourites be, guys?
My favourites would probably be possibly the Yoshimi one, Bitches Brew, as to your surprise, and then possibly and then Crimson King.
My top favourite is definitely the AJJ album.
Yeah.
Andrew Jackson Jihad, that was good.
Yeah.
And again, Bitches Brew, great album.
Fair enough. All right, we will see you next week. Make sure to go on. What are you trying to say?
I was just gonna go. Skurr!
Be sure to follow us on Instagram, We Jam Packed. Check us out on Spotify, Jam Packed Podcast. Subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next week.
Oi oi.